Hello everyone and welcome to a Minecraft 1.15 the Buzzy Bees update video that isn't about the Buzzy Bees themselves. There are going to be so many videos about the bees, the new blocks, items and features that have been added. In this video we're going to go over the smaller quality of life changes that you might have missed, because I tell you what, there are a lot of them in this update. But first of all, a quick word on the performance of this update. The rendering engine was overhauled, so the graphics of the game should just be a little bit smoother, and the chunk loading and FPS was optimized, so you can see the world is loading really smoothly as we fly over it in this shot. And everyone's favorite pastime, TNT, got optimized as well. The first thing we're going to do in this video is a comparison between 1.15 and 1.14. Let's firstly see TNT as we know it. An explosion takes place, the game slows down, particle effects are rumbling across the screen a frame a second, then the world catches up and the chunks reload. And that was 1000 TNT blocks, so the same amount in 1.15. This is so much smoother. You can see where the TNT goes, all of the particle animations don't slow down, and the world doesn't have to reload. You can see all of the damage straight away. So the Buzzy Bees update has its bees of course, and big optimizations to the game, but let's get to what this video is about, the smaller quality of life changes that you might have missed. Dispensers have been given the ability to dispense armor stands. As you can see, their default direction is on the east-west axis, but if your dispenser is placed like so, it can actually rotate it facing away from the direction of the dispenser. Very cool. You are now able to set your spawn location at any time during the day using a bed. You don't have to wait until night. When you right click on it, you can see it says respawn point set. When I click on it again, respawn point set. However, if I click on the same bed multiple times, you can see it doesn't add the respawn point again because it's already been set. So when I kill myself and we respawn, we're now next to this bed. And we can do that in the daytime, which is fantastic. Campfires can now be extinguished using a shovel. You just walk up to them and right click on them, and this can be done with any type of shovel. If you have parrots resting on your shoulder, you'll now be able to get in a boat without them leaving, and of course this is very useful for transporting your parrots around the world. The bell block you find in a village can now be activated with redstone. Simply apply a redstone signal to it and you can hear the bell is ringing out. The dispenser block can now collect water bottles, so if you have glass bottles inside of the dispenser and you power it with redstone, it will then create a water bottle that goes into its inventory. But of course, dispensers pick a slot at random, so this means that it can also shoot them out as well. If you, the player, try to sleep in a bed that a villager is occupying in, that wouldn't have been possible before, but now in 1.15, right-clicking on the bed will kick the villager out, and then you can get in the bed yourself. There are 3 status effects in this game that previously didn't have a graphic to go along with it: instant health, instant damage, and saturation. And now in 1.15, you can see that they have icons. There is a new way to dry your wet sponges. That is to simply visit a hotter climate, that being the Nether. Place them down. You get cool sound effects and particles, and your sponges get dried out. Whoa! Alright, I've got to get out of here now. Dispensers can now shoot fireworks in the direction that they are facing, as opposed to upwards, which was the only way they could get shot before. Now they can get dispensed downwards, they can still go upwards, and what's really cool is that you can use this for wireless redstone. But only sometimes does it actually activate. Iron golems have received an overhaul, as they now have a texture to show you how much damage they've taken. This one is very low on health, and we also have an ability to repair them with ingots. So when I right click on this iron golem with the ingot, you see the texture changes very slightly because their health has gone up. If I right click again, more of the cracks disappear, and there you go. It looks like it's fully healed, but I believe I can click it one more time, and once it's fully healed, you can no longer repair it with ingots. All the different types of minecart rail will now be placed in the direction that the player is facing. Before, they would just be placed in a default direction, whereas now it's based on what way the player is facing, which is nice and convenient. It is now possible for a campfire to be lit by a fire charge from a dispenser. Now it has to collide with the hitbox of the campfire, which it might not always do. You see that one went over to the side, but if it collides with it, then it will light the campfire. This works from above as well, but it doesn't work from below. You can see it's not possible for it to actually light the campfire. If you have a zombie villager that is able to pick up items, when it gets converted to a regular villager, it will then drop those items as opposed to just deleting them from the game. So you can see here all of those items dropped onto the ground. A snow golem that is hanging is now able to shoot snowballs at other entities. I don't know who found this bug or reported it or why they were hanging snow golems, but that's a thing they couldn't do that they now can. This next one's a 2-in-1 combo because nether portals have been optimized in this update. And one of the best ways I can show you this is simply by going through it. You can see the world loads very quickly. Now this nether portal is on top of the nether roof, which is something that's been disabled for the longest time. The synchronization of portals above the roof of the nether. In 1.15, not only do portals work a lot better, and you can go through them quicker with the world loading so snappily, you'll be able to synchronize your portals onto the roof of the nether again. As of 1.15, the following mobs are able to take damage on magma blocks, which they were immune to before. The Elder Guardian, the Squid, the Silverfish, the Endermite, and even the Bat will all take damage on the magma blocks. The visibility of a map will now match the environment that you're in, so as the light level comes down, the visibility of the map lowers as well. It would have previously just have stayed as bright as above water when below. So we have a cartographer that I've been trading with, and I get this Ocean Explorer map from this trade. And as you can see, it's the same as the one that I had before, and this used to be a problem. However, if I were to generate a new trade with a cartographer, it would not be the same ocean monument again. So the change here is that this trade will always generate a new map, so you will not get the same ocean monument or the same mansion, which is a problem that plagued 1.14. So when I grab this one and open it up, you can see it has ID 2 and it's found a new ocean monument for me to explore. And just to make it clear, this is for both ocean monuments and woodland mansions, and I think this is a fantastic change, as before you could trade with the villagers and keep getting the same map over and over again. Getting out of a boat will no longer put you on top of it. As you can see, we end up on this block here, and that's because it actually puts you in the direction that you're facing. So if I face that way, I'll pop out into the water. If I face the opposite way, it'll put me where I'm looking. You will now be able to shift-click into the crafting table, which will help you craft things a little quicker. This can be useful for making rockets, for example. You can just shift-click into the crafting grid. And that lets me transition to the elytra, for which we need rockets to use. Now if you've played on a multiplayer server or you watch people do so, you'll probably know that flying with an elytra on a server, and sometimes in single player, can be tricky. But now in 1.15 it should always be very easy, as it is much easier for the wings to deploy, as they can be deployed when the player is moving both upwards and downwards. A way to exaggerate this is to push myself up into the air and just tap spacebar as I'm going up. And you saw there it let the wings deploy. Now in my opinion, those are the best of the quality of life changes in this video. The rest of what I'm going to show you will be a little bit more on the minor side, but it's good to know. I'm just talking at the middle of this video to say, if you're enjoying it, then consider subscribing. I'm going to be making lots of 1.15 content on this channel. As if there hasn't been enough already, of course I've been covering all of the Snapshot videos leading up to this update, and if that interests you, well then make sure you subscribe. But let's crack on with the video. So now I want to cover two finer details about the things I didn't even cover at all, the bees and all of these features right here. So first of all, the bee is susceptible to this enchantment, the Bane of Arthropods, which previously worked on only spiders. Now the reason it works on bees as well is because they are also arthropods, which are insects or animals that have jointed legs. That is the classification. So both spiders and bees have jointed legs, and that means that this enchantment works on the bees. The other detail that might get missed in some of the other videos covering all of these features here is the honey bottle. This is a food source and it can be consumed when you have full health and full hunger. Now consuming it will actually increase your hunger by 3 haunches or 6 hunger points. What it can also do is boost your saturation as well, which is like a hidden hunger meter. You have 20 points of saturation, and each time you consume a bottle, you'll be boosting it by 1.2 points. And this reminds me, you can now eat any food type in creative mode regardless of your hunger meter. This is especially useful for using cake with comparators to get different signal strengths, as you don't need to jump into survival to consume the cake. The creeper explosion animation has been reverted to how it once was, so now it flashes like this, which it didn't do in 1.14. Throwing an ender pearl into an unloaded chunk, or simply throwing one then logging out and logging back into your world, would stop the ender pearl from remembering who threw it. But if we load the chunk the ender pearl is in, it's going to remember and we will get teleported. In the accessibility menu, there is now options to change the way sneak and sprint behave. You can turn them to toggles. Now, hold required you to hold down the key. Toggle means you just need to press it once. So I'm here in creative mode, and if I just tap shift, I will just continue flying downwards, which feels very strange, and that's because it's toggled. So then if I start to sprint, I can just simply hold down forward without holding down the sprint key. An enchanted trident now has the enchantment glint, both on the item and on the player when they're holding it. And they also fix the alignment bug, so when you hold it above you and hold down shift, you can see the trident is still in my hand. This next one I didn't even know was a thing, but in creative mode, if you were to just throw some items onto the ground, they would take 1 minute to despawn, and if you did that in survival, it would be 5. It's now been made consistent so that items in creative will take 5 minutes to despawn. Now, this isn't a quality of life change, but something you might want to know. The mining speed of endstone bricks now matches endstone, so they're consistent, as before you could mine this faster, and the same goes for the slabs, the stairs, and the wall block. In 1.14, the pumpkin was then split into this texture and the carved pumpkin, and that meant we lost the ability to put a curse onto this carved pumpkin, which has been restored in 1.15. Let's now look at some crafting changes. Dark prismarine can be made with black dye, so that means you can now craft this stuff from both wither roses and from ink sacs. The different types of stripped wood can now be made from stripped logs, something that wasn't possible before, but is a minor convenience. The composter is crafted with nothing but slabs, as opposed to before where you also needed fences. I think I prefer it this way around, with just slabs. The smelting time of boats has been changed. One boat will now be able to smelt 6 items, and also scaffolding has changed as well, so one scaffold will smelt 2 items. Here in the menus, as you've probably noticed, the buttons now have a new type of highlight, which I personally think is a lot easier to see. And if you're deep into some of the menus, pressing escape will just take you back 1 level at a time, as opposed to taking you all the way back to this screen. And now it's time for the most useless of them all. Punching large ferns may on occasion drop seeds now. Yep, you can tell we're at the end of the list. Now, of course, I could have included more because this update came with so many bug fixes. There were absolutely hundreds upon hundreds of them. But those were the ones I felt like putting into this video. And if you know of any other quality of life changes you think that should have been in this one, leave a comment down below. And while you're down there, hit the like button because we're at the end of the video. And of course, it helps support the channel. Thank you as always. Make sure you're subscribed and check out the playlist linked in the description box below for more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.